My name is McCoy Mrubata. I play tenor saxophone and I do play some other reeds, like alto, bit of clarinet, flute, yeah, soprano. How I got into jazz, probably from my mom's womb, because come from a family of jazz lovers, my father, my uncles, my aunts, I grew up listening to a very wide variety of music, both American and African, American side, I knew of John Coltrane when I was probably 10, and Oscar Peterson, and our local guys, Winston Mankunku, Ezra Ngokana. I mean, the list goes on and on. And there's some, old R&B. My aunts had all, the Aretha Franklin, Diana Ross albums, and it's just, And then I was in a marching band. Up, I was still so tiny. I tried to get hold of a bugle. I found myself playing a triangle for the whole year. I was stuck with the triangle. The following year, 1974, I picked up the bugle. And from then, I really was into music, and I thought I'll be a trumpet player, until that faded as well, and I'm also, visual art, I draw a lot. Yeah, music, from 1974, 75, it's kind of faded. I thought, no, I didn't think much of music. I was into painting. Then came 1976, some of you will probably know about the Soweto uprising, when students, didn't want to learn Afrikaans, which is, very difficult language for, black people. We will go and picket and do all sorts of things. We're not going to school. And by a chance, a friend of mine left a penny whistle at my house, a friend who I used to do art with, And I tried this penny whistle and I blew on it. I fell in love with it. And I asked him to teach me, the right fingering, And like they say, the rest is history. I used to play every song I knew, mimic, TV themes, jazz song, blues, And I begged my mom to buy me a flute because the penny whistle is kind of closer to flute, And she saved enough money in 1978 and bought myself a side flute. I used to play that on and forget about food, and she would beg me to come and eat. I was so in love with music again. And so much that in the space of 6 months, I was asked to do an audition with the, professional band. I was 18 at the time, and I got the gig. And we were playing lots of American music, top 20, top 40, Jazz Crusaders music, Earth, Wind and Fire, the Commodores, And what happened? The flute was kind of disappearing because they needed step lines, pop, 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 stuff like that. And I bought myself a tenor. Then I started practicing my tenor in 1980. Up until now, tenor is the first instrument I play. And I've since recorded a couple of albums. And I got my first recording deal back in 1988 with the British-based company Zomba Records. I recorded Firebird. Yeah, I'm originally from Cape Town. I was born in Langa Township. And Cape Town, I was lucky in that in our neighborhood we had all types of music. Opposite my grandma's house where I was born, there was a big band, jazz, practicing all the time. I would go there, I was probably 8 or 10, and I'd listen to the music and fall asleep, I mean, then I used to wonder, the last time I checked, I was listening to these old people, why am I back home? It didn't occur to me that, my mom will pick me up or whoever the neighbors back me at home. And interesting enough, on the left-hand side, we had traditional healers, and what happens with traditional healers, soothsayers, they use African drums. I used to listen to that music as well, I mean, I was forced to because it was loud, We had small houses. We used to hear, a lot of singing, percussion, and drumming. And on our right hand side, we had also a similar concept where, they had more Christian, but in an African way, they Zion Christian Church, It was crazy. And yeah, I'm at home. My family play all types of music, jazz, R&B of the day, and then next door, it was crazy, but it was rich. And I guess that's what comes coming back to me in terms of my compositions. I've absorbed all of these sounds. I grew up with, and also when I started my career in Cape Town was great in that I learned to play all the styles of music. But the drawback about Cape Town, they were not keen in back then, in original compositions, I was getting tired of playing, standards, I wanted, to record and play my music, and and I used to hear about Joburg, and lots of recordings were done in Johannesburg, and it was my dream to one day go to Joburg and play what I feel, because something inside me was burning, as much as Cape Town, was and still rich musically, because there's all kinds, yeah, Kuma music, which is a Kun carnival. You probably can hear in my music, and also we have samba there, and pakanga, Cape Town style. Um, that's where some of my masters come from, Winston Mankunku, great saxophonist, who sounded like John Coltrane when shorter, but with a very his own distinctive, African style. But anyway, I moved to Joburg in 1988. Was invited by another great artist, who was not really jazz, Saxophonist Mabusa, He was more of what you call world music, It was while I was with him, where I got this, recording deal, was approached by his talent scout, to do my first recording. And yeah, like I say, I've got a couple of CDs out now. And yeah. I mostly play with the band that I formed back in 1993, McCoy and Friends. It comprises of Paul Henma, whom in fact I met in 1988 when I did my very first album, because I was a young 18-year-old who had few ideas. The talent scout, who was the producer, felt that I needed people to write music for me, because he didn't like some of my ideas. That's when I met Paul, and he's in my band. I'm sometimes in his band. That's what's beautiful about jazz. There are bands within bands. And I also play with my trombonist Chabuma Kubane, great guy. I met, which I met in 1993. And I also play with Prince Lingwasa, great trumpet player, flugelhorn, conductor, arranger. And I also play with a pianist called Luyanda Madope. He's written some beautiful songs for me. And great drummer Benis Boykanyo. I work with him, and now and then I bring in one of the best trumpet players we have in South Africa, a guy called Feya Faku. He's something, I've recorded with him, and I was lucky also to have the privilege of recording with my contemporary who has since passed away, Zim Rawana. I met Zim in the early 80s. We were both playing just the flute at the time, He heard about me, came to my house, I gave him a lesson and a nice classical music book, and he was involved in my recording Face the Music. He plays a beautiful baritone, saxophone there. And yeah, I, I sometimes freelance, get calls, to be in big bands. And I've also directed musicals, you did the music, yeah. And I was lucky enough to be chosen to do a Kipi. Kipi Muyeketi is now our kind of own Charlie Parker, great alto saxophonist, I was asked in 1995 to, do music for his story, yeah, and it's one of my highlights, yeah. And I've been to Norway doing, Bob Marley, so life is great, yeah. South Africa is rich, yeah, we have our own unique jazz, For instance, I'll start with my albums. I would advise for youngsters who want to, get rich South African, to get one of my favorite albums, Face the Music, and Tears of Joy, And I've since recorded others, but Face the Music should be the good start. And we have great guys like a guy I mentioned, Zim Ngawan. He's deep. I will advise musicians, young cats, to check him out. Zim Ngawana has got a few albums out. And Faya Faku, trumpet player, who he sometimes reminds me of Woody Shaw. He's something else. And great pianist who has since passed away, Bekim Seleku. Yeah, we also have a nice guitarist who shares the same first name, Becky Koza. Ooh, the list is endless. You won't go wrong with South African jazz.